Literally can't make up these headlines. FHFA refers New York Attorney General Letitia James to the Justice Department for alleged mortgage fraud. Let's see. Letitia James got elected on the basis of going after Trump for some absolutely ridiculous charges. And she got them because she's in a Democrat-run city, Democrat-run state, Democrat legal system. She's up on mortgage fraud charges. Let's jump into this. Here we go.
Speaking of the law, the Trump administration referring New York Attorney General Letitia James for possible prosecution.
Prison. Send her to El Salvador.
Fraud over a mortgage on a house in Virginia.
Todd Pyro joins us now with the details.
Like what?
Todd?
Good morning to all four of you. Remember that song from the 90s, Things That Make You Go, This is that. The Ingram Act containing documents from the Federal Housing Finance Agency accusing James of, quote, falsifying records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms.
Shame.
One, listing
Walk of shame.
Residents in 2023 while serving as New York's top prosecutor. Two, James reportedly also listed her father as her husband on mortgage applications.
What?
And three, the Federal Housing Finance Agency says she bought a 5-family home in Brooklyn, but misrepresented the same property as only having 4 units in
We'll get into that.
Applications and numerous documents. Now, this, of course, is a role reversal of sorts for in 2022.
Of sorts.
$454 million civil fraud judgment against President Trump and the Trump Organization, stating he falsified business records and misrepresented his net worth. That case currently on.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Courtroom throughout those proceedings. No love lost between the two, as you can see in some of these pictures. President Trump reacting to the new.
Do you think Trump had somebody dig up this dirt? You think he did that? Did somebody in some agency, did he have Elon Musk dig this up? Hey, you know what? Be interesting. We could find some real dirt on Letitia James. Let's just see what she's got. What is she? Let's look into her loan package from when she's purchased back in whatever. Oh, look what we got here, Don. Oh, my.
Accusations against her, writing on Truth Social. Letitia James, a totally corrupt politician,
could
resign from her position.
Yes.
New York State Attorney General immediately.
Yep.
Everyone is trying to make New York great again, and it can never be done with this wacky crook in office. Fox News contributor and law professor.
Wacky crook in office. That's what she is. I wouldn't call her wacky. I would call her a deceptive crook, because that's what she is. And she deserves whatever she gets. She's not going to do any jail time. She's not doing anything along those lines. But get her to quit. Get her to quit out of there.
Jonathan Turley also weighing in. Watch.
The irony is perfectly crushing. This is a person who prosecuted Trump for everything short of ripping a label off a mattress. As for James, if we apply the Letitia James standard that she created, there'd be little question here. This seems pretty straightforward.
Letitia James has not responded to our request for comment.
It is such a crazy story. But Todd, I mean, there she is on an application. She says that her occupation is Attorney General for the state of New York. But at the same time, she says, my primary residence is in Virginia? Huh?
And I want to be clear. I think I may have said 2002. I believe it was 2003 that the case against Trump started. That is when she applied for this. So the fact that she accused and won in court against President Trump on charges involving documents, the fact that she then apparently, reportedly, misrepresented herself on documents speaks volumes, and will be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Todd, what would be the point of listing that as your primary residence? So you can pay taxes in Virginia and not New York?
No.
That appears to be unclear. I mean, look, inevitably she is paid by the state of New York.
Nothing to do with that. It's got to do with when you finance a home if you declare it as your primary residence, you're going to have the lowest amount of down payment available to you. You can put down a low down payment. When it's not your primary residence, when it is, I don't need to have these on. When it's not your primary residence, it's non-owner occupied, meaning it's a rental property. Or it could be a second residence, but you have to declare that too. But anything that is not your primary residence, it's got greater down payment requirements. Your interest rate goes up 0.5 point, a quarter, 0.5 point, 0.75 point, whatever the market is dictating at that time. And it's harder to get financing on a non-owner occupied property. So she's going through and trying to make it easy on herself. But let's read the article. This is from The Hill. You know what? We're not going to read from The Hill. We're going to read from National Mortgage Professional. We're just going to keep it on the up and up. Just business here. This is wild stuff. Department of Justice. Federal Housing Agency has referred New York State Attorney General 𝗧𝗜𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗠𝗘 to the U.S. Department of Justice for potential criminal prosecution. I say we send her right to El Salvador. Give her a cell right next to the hairdresser dude. You know what I mean? Just don't really care. Boop, gone. All right. So we got the Federal Housing Finance Agency giving a little referral of information to the Department of Justice, the DOJ. In a letter obtained by White Collar Fraud and published this morning, Federal Housing Finance Advisory contends there are unfortunately too many examples of individuals who commit fraud or mortgage fraud, and notes it's ready to assist the Department of Justice should the department decide to move forward with a criminal prosecution. This is just pressure from Trump, whomever, whatever federal agencies he wants to throw at it. This is pressure for her to step down. This is pressure to make her look terrible, which, given what she did to Trump, she deserves every single bit of this. These charges are way more serious than what she tried to get Trump on. The stuff she tried to get Trump on, I have come through my business every single month. I was going to say week, but it's not that often. And it's oftentimes lenders overstating, or not lenders, but borrowers, developers overstating or just stating what they think the value of a project is. And it's right there, and it's on a loan app, and it is what it is. If you're a lender, you know what you have the option to do? All right. And that guy is saying that his house is worth, but we're using it as cross collateral on this other project over here. Let's get Sean the appraiser out there and see what that house is worth. I'd go out to houses all the time for that. So if you don't like what the answer that the borrower is giving you, as the lender, it's up to you to make that decision. Hey, is Trump overstating this? You don't make decisions based on, Trump says it's worth $100 million. Well, let's just give him a loan. It's just absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And what Letitia James is doing here is everyday residential mortgage fraud, because it gets you a better rate, lowers your payments, actually gets you the loan. Let's go through it here. As regulator of Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and federal home loan banks, we take very seriously allegations of mortgage fraud or other criminal activity. The agency assists it has identified matters that are appropriate for referral to the U.S. Department of Justice for consideration of criminal prosecution. In making its allegations, FHFA tapped its authority over Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and cited forms from those entities and mortgage documents. FHFA claims that James, a Democrat, falsely identified a Norfolk, Virginia property as her primary residence in order to get a more favorable mortgage rate in financing it. People do that all the time. I would be asked, I'd have a tenant family in a property. I'd have the homeowner and some other zip code living in some other state, and they're basically stating to everybody in the pipeline, oh yeah, we're living there. And appraisers aren't, occupancy police. So we'd be like, right. Oh, you're committing mortgage fraud. And we all know it. Loan officer knows it. Everybody knows it. But yeah, let's get that low rate. Let's get that favorable loan to value ratio, right? So did she do that? Probably. I mean, it's not that hard to figure out, right? She's Attorney General of New York, and Norfolk, Virginia is not in New York, last I checked. Falsified resident status for Norfolk, Virginia-based home in order to secure a lower mortgage rate. Yeah, down payments consistent with owner-occupied properties are less than non-owner-occupied properties, than rental properties. Interest rates are lower on primary residences. You get the sweet deal on owner-occupied residence. And why is that? Because the minute you step to anything else, when the shit hits the fan, meaning Great Recession, interest rates go to whatever, you're gonna let go of that second property. You're gonna let go of that second home. You're gonna let go of those non-owner occupied properties, and you're gonna hunker down and keep the one home, which is your primary residence. So that's why lenders have incentives to lend to you, because there's less inherent risk, right, than a second home or a rental unit or anything along those lines. You're going to get the best deal for your primary. So that's why she lied, so she could get a good deal. She didn't want to go down the correct road of saying, yeah, that's not really my home, but you know what, you give me a loan on it anyway. Misrepresented property descriptions. Now, this is an interesting one, of her Brooklyn, New York home to meet requirements for government-backed loans and government assistance. Oh, tisk on this one. This is a good one. According to FHFA, James purchased of property in Norfolk, Virginia in August of 2023. And on Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac form and in mortgage documents now. So the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, that's a federal form. This is a federal offense. We need to send her to El Salvador. We just do. Just no jury, no trial, just boop, right to El Salvador, right to that prison. Just maybe get it out of her system a little bit. You committed crime. So you got a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac form, and in mortgage documents, she reaffirmed this would be her primary residence despite being a statewide public office holder in the state of New York. Huh. Yeah, she lied. She lied. Is it worthy of a prison sentence? No, it's not. Probably get a fine. Is she going to face some heat and possibly be expelled from her position? Maybe. Wouldn't that be something? This is the one, 𝗧𝗓𝗔𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗕 James is the one person I think that should be tossed from office just because of how she handled the Trump against case. It was so weak. It was so bad. It was so bad. From a residential real estate appraiser, mortgage background, sell a lot of homes kind of guy, that case was just absolutely based on nothing. This has got some teeth to it. She lied. She did what tons and tons and tons of other people do, but she's holding herself up to this higher standard. I'm an attorney general. The FHFA letter stresses that primary residential mortgage receive more favorable loan terms, lower interest rates. Interest rate for secondary resident mortgages are typically 25 to 50 basis points higher. So it's more expensive, right? However, at the time of the 2023 Norfolk, Virginia property purchase and mortgage, Miss James was the sitting Attorney General of New York and is required by law to have her primary residence in the state of New York. So what's she going to do there? So what home was your primary? She'll say some rental was. She'll say there was a misunderstanding on the dates. She'll do some just ridiculous song and dance here, right? Then going back more than 2 decades regarding the Brooklyn, New York property, FHFA alleges in its letter that James purchased what is a 5-family home. A 5-family home. It's got 5 units. It's not 4. Massive red flag here. Why is that? 5-unit property is commercial. 4-unit property is conforming residential, meaning Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac will back in the secondary mortgage market. They will back a 4-unit property. They will not back a 5-unit property typically. and I would get called to go out and do what I thought was going to be a fourplex. It would have an illegal fifth unit. And I would have to tell the lender, hey, in my report, it's going to say it appears there is an illegal or a fifth unit that may not have been permitted. Because what they want to do is they want to get the fifth unit rental income from that. Yeah, 5 units are better than 4. But then you can't get conforming financing. So you don't get that cheap 4-unit financing, right? You got to go to a commercial loan, and it's going to have a shorter repayment period. It's going to have a higher down payment amount. The interest rate is going to be more, and just qualifying for those loans is going to be more difficult. So she lied and said, oh, no, it's a 4-unit. There's only 4 units here. And I would be asked to lie about fifth units all day long. That was a common occurrence. My appraisers would come to me and say, hey, Sean, yeah, it says on the tax records this is 4 units, but I got out there and there's 5 different tenants living there. Yep, you got an illegal fifth unit. So James purchased what is a 5-family home in February 2001, secured a conforming loan via Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Uh-oh, she is lying through her teeth. Whew. What noodle, right? Fannie Mae Mac Form 3033. That's just the application, right? Even though such loans are available only for homes with 4 units or less. She lied. She got away with the lie, and she's been lying for a few years. All right? Borrowers do that all the time. Does it make it right? No, it doesn't. It's illegal. It's breaking the law. Is 𝗧𝗜𝗓 James going to get a slap on the wrist for this? Well, they got to prove it. But it sounds like they've got some pretty interesting stuff to be able to prove. Buildings with more than 4 units must be treated as multifamily properties, which typically requires larger down payments, financed at higher interest rates to the tune of 75 to 100 basis points more. Spanning the last 2 decades, Ms. James has consistently misrepresented the same property as only having 4 units in both building permit applications and numerous mortgage documents and applications. Uh-oh. Whew. Wow. Over the last 2 decades, that's not good. El Salvador, got to send her there. This is a horrific injustice. This is criminal. Thus, with both the Norfolk, Virginia and Brooklyn, New York properties, I'm making fun, but the only reason this is so funny is because the charges that she came up with on Trump were way less impactful. These are actual charges that people should care about, because what Trump did had no real impact on his deal. It just didn't. Just no impact. 𝗧𝗜𝗓 James, with her lack of understanding of how all of this actually works in real world, and her criminal mind, her alleged criminal mind, she's just a little out of touch, right? She's just wildly out of touch. So falsified records in order to meet lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms. Oof. Finally, the agency goes back over 4 decades in another allegation that James falsified mortgage documents in claiming her father and she were husband and wife. Uh-oh. Ooh, that's not good. In 1983, somebody's been doing some digging. They got out the shovel and they've been doing some digging. 83, Miss James and her father signed mortgage Man, that's a long time. I was in 8th grade in 1983. So in 1983, Miss James and her father signed mortgage documents that stated that they were husband and wife in order to secure a home mortgage. That is known as mortgage fraud. That is an actual crime. What Trump did? Not a crime. Not even anything really punishable. But 𝗧𝗜𝗓 James in her, kangaroo court, she got those things to stick. Hey, are you and your father, are you husband and wife? Oh, you're not. Okay. But it says here on your home mortgage application that he's your dad. You illegally held him out as your dad. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. So how do you explain that one there, Attorney General James? How do you explain that one? I checked the wrong box, and I'm so sorry. The two listed themselves as married in documentation 17 years later in May of 2000. We have got a history of criminal activity here. It's not looking good, is it? Now, what's the deal there? Why would you, I'm married to my dad because she didn't have the income at the time or she didn't have the credit at the time. Her dad did. And so let's just put daddy on there. Who's your daddy? Well, you are, Dad. The FAA letter, which is dated April 14th, 2025, and addressed to U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi. Oh, she's going to love this, isn't she? And U.S. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche carries the signature of Bill Pulte. It's not available. Okay, don't really care about that. Note that while James is a Democrat and current administration Republican, the Department of Justice's motto, 𝗧𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗜𝗍, or who follows Lady Justice as his sovereign, underscores that the Department of Justice is meant to prosecute for justice's sake. We're just going after the truth there, free from other motivations such as politics, political party, or personal agendas. Yeah, we're not really following that. We're just prosecuting people left and right based on their criminal activity. And 𝗧𝗓 James, it sounds like she's been down the criminal activity road, and not just recently, for many, many, many years. What's going to happen? Does she step down? Nah, I think she hangs in the pocket, but she'll go out with a stain on her resume. Democrats won't care. They'll be like, this is just retribution for what she did to Trump. Well, and that's why I'm doing this podcast, because her deal with Trump was absolutely ludicrous. It was mind-blowingly ludicrous. These are some real charges. These are real charges that Americans try and game the system with every single day of every single business week that we have. Oh, yeah, I live there. Oh, yeah, I'm married to him. Oh, yeah. Yep. I mean, we're married. So run credit on both of us and, use that to get us in there. Oh, yeah, we're married, and this is our primary residence. That fifth unit is just, it's just finished storage. Well, it's got a refrigerator. It's got a stove. It's got its own heating system. And it's got its own unit number on the door. How do you explain that? The number 5 on it here. And you see the other 4 units over here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go to 5. How do you explain that? We just needed to number it so people bring their stuff when they're just storing it here. Lie after lie after lie after lie. That's what people do, because if they can get a little bit better loan rate, they can get a little bit less down payment. Maybe they don't have the full down payment. If they go the full Monty of saying, oh, yep, it's 5-unit property, because it's way more difficult to get financing for a 5-unit than it is a 4-unit. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. It's commercial versus residential, and residential owner occupied is a much smoother route to go. If indeed it's a single family home. And the 4 units, she lied. Sounds like she just flat lied. She'll come up with something where she'll say, I'd be curious to see what kind of income that she uses, with her tax returns. Does she declare, the income from all 5 units or just 4? What is she doing there? And did he fully declare that he was married to his daughter in all of his documents? Because, there's some liability there. We've got shenanigans, right? This is a case of wild shenanigans. And they wouldn't be quite so wild if she wasn't the Attorney General of New York. This just kind of shows how much of a flim-flam game most of this stuff against Trump was. It's just nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And then you come up with this and you're like, okay. We need to look into that. So I hope the Department of Justice, I hope they look into it and they find something good. And I hope 𝗧𝗓 James has to step down. That is what I would see happening. Actually going to trial. No. Bigger fish to fry, right? Bigger fish to fry. But if she were to have to step down, I would be 100% okay with that, because she is a real work of art, and she does not deserve to be in any position of authority in any governmental entity anywhere. Have her step down. I'd be happy with that. All right. That's it for me. Then she can go work for some NGO or some nonprofit out there, making probably $500,000 a year for stubbing her toe on a daily basis. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.